and finally introducing the final case study today, Seeing the Unseen at Auckland Airport, presented by Robin Findlay, Digital Engineering Manager at Auckland Airport. Robin comes from an industrial design build background and has tackled complex projects in breweries in Africa and healthcare facilities here in New Zealand. Hopefully a lot of New Zealanders aren't drinking a lot of beer out of Africa, which makes them even more important. But he currently serves as the Digital Engineering Manager at Auckland Airport, where he oversees building services and civil utilities. So Robin, really looking forward to shedding the light on innovative approaches using BIM and gaming software to help people see more clearly what's coming in the future and how to better understand how we need to operate. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you. Been some great sessions today. What I've noticed is it seems to be a lot of what's been spoken about is actually more about people and processes. You know, the tools are all great and everything, but I think where it all falls over is people. So just getting into a chat about Auckland Airport, I thought I would firstly give you guys a bit of an idea on our campus. So when most people see the airport, they think it's pretty much just a runway and some terminal buildings, but we actually own 15.65 kilometres squared of that land. So we own the utilities, we own the roads, we have shopping malls, hotels, all sorts of things. So it's not just looking after the terminals; it's looking after some of that other infrastructure as well. Our environment is constantly changing. So if you look back in the 1930s, you would have just seen a grassland with maybe a small building. 1960s, the runway came in and was built, and then by the 70s, we started building up the international terminal. But that's all past history. So the one thing is, because it was built in those days, a lot of that information was only delivered in, say, PDF, or once you get to the 80s, 90s, 2D AutoCAD. So there is always going to be a little bit of an unknown to what we have on our site, and with that comes risk. So our ongoing stream of projects, a lot of these you would notice if you've driven to the airport at any time in the last 4 or 5 years. They've been, or 3 to 5 years, have been going on. The big one that's been stopping traffic is the transport hub at the moment. So, and then the other big one that's coming is we're going to be integrating our domestic jet flights into the international terminal, so that you no longer have to walk along that nice, lovely green line to get from domestic to international. So when you see our site, you can see those assets above the ground quite easily, and that information we can, in some way or another, find, go do some scans or whatever else to determine, well, what is actually there. An area that we know and we understand that there's a high risk, and this is where health and safety comes in, is anything below ground. So if you see that image on the screen, and we suddenly overlay, well, what do our services that we know of look like? You get this crazy image, which is, again, a lot of that being built, within the last 30 years. It would have been delivered either in PDF or CAD, and would have been reproduced for us to pull into GIS. So with that, we have an idea of our services, but there is always that risk. Whether the location's not right, whether the depth is not right, and what do we do about it? So what we do within the airport is we have a procedure that we refer to as the GPC process, the ground penetrating certificate process. A lot of contractors use this within their own, how they reduce their own risk. But for us, this is we don't want any shovels in the ground until this overall procedure has been achieved. So you'll notice it doesn't just involve one person. It's it starts off with the contractor, project team, SIT team, and it moves on. That we're making sure we're getting somebody to come serve those services. We're doing a bit of a comparison between the existing and what we've discovered, and as well we're starting to take that existing data now and actually upgrade it. So we're using PAS 128, which is a system to say how reliable is your information. If you were to dig here, you know, is it 500 mil out? Is it, you know, a meter out? So a lot of this is helping us reduce that risk when a contractor puts a spade in the ground, that we're not going to have any major issues on site. For us, you know, there's a health and safety thing, but there's also we're an airport, so if something like power goes out or data goes out, you know, there's huge repercussions on that. So we need to make sure that that information, we're sure about it. So this is just a quick overview on that process. So what happens is we have our with our project teams, they'll understand an area and they will mark out that area and say, well, we actually need to make sure that all the services in that area we have discovered. So we use a company called Reveal. They come out and they will scan that area. So we'll take from that area, they will come across and they'll do an actual scan. They use our existing data and compare it to what they found. So they can't necessarily find out that it is a wastewater pipe, but they'll see on our plans we approximately have a wastewater pipe there, and they will make some assumptions. And we will then take that information and overlay it with our existing. So you can kind of notice on the green lines there's some little squiggles, and that's because of the actual scanning process where we show it as a single straight line. They're doing a walkover, which causes it to be a bit jagged, but theirs is usually more accurate in terms, especially of the Z value, but you know, that is a straight pipe, it's a stormwater pipe. The other thing we've been doing is, so we're looking at our assets in terms of that piece on, we get handed an as-built, and we can't actually check that as-built is what they say it is. You know, we are trying to uplift that, but we're trying to also enable our project team to capture information so we can do those checks. So we've adopted these little viaduct units. Some of our PMs just go to site. Whenever there's something open and exposed, they'll scan it up. We get a geolocated point cloud that we can now confirm whether that service was indeed installed as per the design, and just give it a bit of a review. We don't need to review everything, but you know, at these critical junctions, if we can tell that that's been installed as per the design, we're pretty, you know, we can't check everything, but at least we can check those critical sections. We've been getting probably, I think it was the last we looked was 10 mil accuracy in the X and the Y, and up to 30 mil accuracy in the Z. So pretty good for us to do a quick compare, and it doesn't need a registered surveyor. This is just to show a quick video on, I say quick video, I might actually speed it up if I can. A bit of our projects that are going on. So there's the existing building and some of the new projects. So yeah, there's a lot going on site. Just highlighting. I don't know if it's going to let me forward. No. Oh, sorry. So here's just a quick example of us actually comparing that scanned data to what we found. So you can see there we've got this new combined services trench running along. This is to do with us, with our terminal expanding. We have to make allowances for additional resilience and things like that. So this CST, we've got the design model in there, and then we've just quickly dropped in the point cloud that we've scanned ourselves. You can see there's a green and a blue line there. In the model, the design model, they take a big dip. Those are these two lines over here actually represent those lines. So when we look at the design model versus what was installed, there's actually quite a difference, which may not make a big difference say, between design and contractor, but for us, anything in the future, when we have to now come to site again and dig in that spot, you know, we're looking for a high level of accuracy so that we don't put anybody in harm's way. Just showing the build over time. So we've actually, you know, we haven't been just scanning once off, because this is a long CST, and they do it in intervals. But we've actually built up those layers to the final output. In this model, it's not the easiest to use, but we still have that, and we can go back to those dates and check where did we actually sit at that time. The other thing that we've been doing, something that was mentioned, I think, by Jen, is you know, a set of 2D drawings is nice and all, but it actually takes some sort of a skill to read what's being said on that drawing, and you know, a line could represent different things. But there's that piece to the puzzle where you can't see what isn't in that drawing, which is any moving vehicles or pedestrian access routes. So we went down a bit of a route to do a pilot using gamification to try and take this exact piece of work and show the dangers when it comes to health and safety. So, as mentioned, yeah, this is the system. It was just a pilot, so we haven't actually gone ahead any further with it. But the idea was, just as you can see on screen there, we've replicated our site to a point. We have brought in a project file that actually shows a timeline. So we imported a synchro file in here that actually relates to the project plan. The difficulty is that little power center there is going to remain active while the building to the left comes out of the ground and actually gets built around it. So with that, you can see this road that goes around is actually an active truck dock, which will remain during this project. So we needed to understand, okay, well, what can we do? What are the limitations? So we went along with this pilot and had a team helping and assisting us with developing how we bring in these different files and how we review it. You can get a good idea of, we can actually jump in here now and model hoarding and things as well. So I've just pre-modeled a lot of them just so you can have a look. Just turning them all on. Sorry. You can see the hoarding start to appear around the airside boundary. Turn on a couple more. Some site containers for the contractor on site. So you can see that whole area gets cordoned off. And then we put some cones around there, and we can actually start to see, well, what will we have to do to get that traffic to be diverted, and likewise, if we were to put a person in that situation, you know, walking around, where would they be at risk? So, taking just I think I shortened that video. So, and what we can do quite well here is options. So in that plan, you could notice that there was a view that the car would drive around, or the view that the car would drive around and do a turn. So we can now start bringing those things in. We can bring in the weather. You know, we don't just need to look at best case scenario. We can actually start to make things a bit more difficult. A couple of takeaways. I think, as I said, one of the common things that I've heard through today is it's based around the piece on people. So all of these tools that we've got to our disposal are great, but it's actually more critical that we get people around these tools, because if we've got this tool and 2 or 3 people in the office are using it, it kind of falls over. You need everybody engaged in the process. Another thing is, as far as I mentioned, the understanding that somebody after your design, your piece of design, is going to need that information for some reason or another, which is quite critical. So if you're the designer and you're chatting to the contractor and finding out, well, what do they actually need to make their job easier? Yes, it may cost a little bit extra, but as a client, often we'd be willing to come to the party on that. The other thing is design and construction is that information, we're going to use it after this project's long gone and everybody's walked off of site. We're going to use it for future projects, so it's going to get recycled and reused. So, you know, the more effort that gets put in those things saves us down the track. The other thing is BIM often gets sold as an add-on. I don't really see that. I see that tools were created to create efficiencies. So design, you work better. Yes, you may put costs somewhere, but let's say you were doing something in 2D and now you've suddenly moved to 3D. Some of those tasks that used to be expensive, like material takeoffs, and you can now straight away click a button and pull out those MTOs. So yeah, it's just taking that idea that this isn't supposed to be a hindrance. This is actually supposed to help the overall process. And then us as a client, so what we're trying to do is improve those requirements. So we know we think we know what we want. We're always learning as well, and we're documenting that. So we're trying to get to that point where it's not vague. If we give the consultant or the contractor our set of documents, they will deliver consistently, which again was what Farzan was mentioning in his lovely presentation. Yeah, so that's it from me.